Well, from a political row about the NHS to an issue which has tested both the politicians and the people they serve. The killings in Leicester last week have shaken the different communities in the city. But there's been praise for the way people have dealt with the events, and now there's praise for the city's politicians too. Our reporter Rob Pittham spoke to the community leader Suleiman Nagdi, who says they've played a prominent part in helping to heal the wounds.
I feel that the politicians play an important role in issues like this when it creeps up the community. They look for leadership within the politicians, and certainly we are very fortunate in Leicester that we have Keith Vaz, whose consistency where we are standing right now in relation with the murder taking place, Honourable John Ashworth as well, our city mayor Peter Salisbury, and the various councillors, and they all rallied around and have been meeting with us ever since this tragic act faced us here. And through the time they've been with us, they've shown issues of solidarity with the community and going the extra mile and saying, is there anything we can do in relation to facilitating an early burial, which is a requirement within the Islamic faith to bury your deceased within 24 hours or soon thereafter. So we've been having meetings with the coroner's office and various other agencies, and I think they've been absolutely marvellous. What they can also do is set an example and show leadership, because at times like this people are normally confused, don't quite understand which way to head. So politicians play the role in leadership and trying to gel and cement the community and the relations there, because things like this can very easily go wrong and people can put wedge between communities and try and make it appear as if it's something that is not actually the case.
And do you think they can help communities speak to each other, or maybe to the mainstream society? Because I know you mentioned the problem with burial, for example. That's a different practice in the Muslim community. How can a politician help with something like that?
Well, certainly in Leicester for over 20 years we signed the first historic document in Europe allowing Muslims access to burial facilities 7 days a week, bank holidays, etc. The politicians were involved with this in the early stages when we first set it up, and because the structures were in place where Leicester was the first city in Europe to allow this and continued nationally now, is another example of how politicians helped us in the early stages, in the dawn of this work that we did, and helped us facilitate this. And today we see the benefits of it because the structures are in place already. Generally, and I'm sorry to say, that we usually see politicians at the time of elections when they're normally going around the area asking for votes. But in a situation like this, where they drop all their work and come across because they know that community impact is one of great significance and they have supported us, I think it's something that we can actually export from Leicester to other parts of the country.
Well, rare praise there for politicians seeking to offer leadership to their community. Well, I was reporting from the Solidarity event in Leicester on Tuesday evening that Mr Nagdi helped organise. One councillor spoke about the importance of staying calm together. The city mayor said the meeting showed the city at its best. Mark Spencer, carefully chosen words at these times are extremely important, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult. You have to tiptoe your way around these issues because, of course, you don't want to be overbearing and you don't want to be interfering, but at the same time, you want to be supportive and try and help that community through that tragedy and find a way to make sure that you stop that from happening in future, or you can make it better. And it's very difficult.
How do you pitch it?
Oh dear, I mean it's one of the hardest things to do, frankly, and undoubtedly you get it wrong probably every time. You're either not quite as supportive enough or you're too interfering. But
because I was struck on Tuesday about how right they got it. They got the tone just right.
I think, you know, praise to them, but it's a very difficult one, frankly, and it's one that you don't really want to find yourself in that circumstance. But if you do, you just have to go with your gut feeling. Now
Vernon Coker, your shadow brief is Northern Ireland, where it's had its troubles and problems, and politicians have been very, very closely involved with that in getting the community together. In your experience, having been there so long now, what role can politicians play in this?
They can play an enormous role, because when something terrible happens in a community, it's a mixture of emotion that happens. There's anger, there's disbelief, there's sorrow, there's grief, and a sense of bewilderment. And so sometimes, you know, just people coming out and sharing that, if you're a community leader, makes a huge difference. Or if you look at Northern Ireland, where there's been a general, you know, a tremendous sense of injustice about something that's happened, somebody saying the right things, and even Parliament saying the right things, makes a difference. And I'll give you one good example, and I say this as a Labour politician about where the Prime Minister, in his response just over a year ago to the bloody Sunday inquiry, where, as we know, there was an inquiry, he got the tone just right, and that meant a lot to the people of Northern Ireland, and particularly the people in Derry, Londonderry, where that those killings had taken place. And that made a huge difference to them.
And what came out time and time again on Tuesday was the issue of community solidarity and achieving that.
It means such a lot to people, and people can be cynical about this. People can say it doesn't matter, but it does matter. And the words do matter. And as Mark was saying, you have to be very careful to try and get the words right. But where they get them right in Leicester, or whereas the Prime Minister got them right, it makes a huge difference.
Well, Dr. Sattar, who lost 4 members of his family, told the congregation he got his strength from their love. Now, how do you ensure communities provide that sort of support?
I mean, it's very difficult, but you try and engage with those people, and you try and pull them together and try and point them in a direction and lead them through it, I suppose. But it's one, as a politician, that you never want to find yourself in that circumstance, but if you do, you just have to go with it and react to your own gut feeling.
Well, and people want you to be there.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you for that.